chest. And all these pieces. Almost all the streets that I've crossed got flowers and pictures posted on the sidewalk. Memories of almost all the homies I've lost. I feel like mama's looking at me like it's my fault. He be alive, he wasn't fucking with you, demon. And now he gone and I'm still picking up the pieces. I swear to God, I really felt that in my chest. She looked me in my eyes and said, I pray your mama next. I stride on, no escape. For the expression that was written on my mama's face. And it's a miracle she ever even kept her faith. I stride on, but there's no escape. For the expression that was written on my mama's face. And it's a miracle she ever even kept her faith. I go high. I wake up flinching in my sleep, I'm fighting demons. I wake up sweating on my sleep, I think I'm bleeding. When in the neck in case somebody tries to sleep. I go high. I wake up flinching in my sleep, I'm fighting demons. I wake up sweating on my sleep, I think I'm bleeding. When in the neck in case somebody tries to sleep. Almost all the streets that I've crossed got flowers and pictures posted on the sidewalk. Memories of almost all the homies I've lost. I feel like mama's looking at me like it's my fault. He be alive, he wasn't fucking with you, demon. And now he gone and I'm still picking up the pieces. I swear to God, I really felt that in my chest. She looked me in my eyes and said, I pray your mama next. I stride on, escape. For the expression that was written on my mama's face. And it's a miracle she ever even kept her faith. I go high. I feel the unholy spirit when it's moving through. Dark side, dark side. Clearing up all the lies and the rumors too. Dark side, dark side. You say you want my life, you gotta fight me first. Dark side, dark side. Come outside round here, there's nothing like church. Dark side, come and get this life. They talked about Jesus, give them something to Babylon. Just know my whole team is battle tested and battle strong. One world speaking that Tower Babel tongue. Cole Hammurabi thinking ancient Babylon. No pun intended, Reaganomics had us under avalanche. We took off like a rocket, they was praying we could never launch into the upper echelon. You can never be yourself. Every day is Comic-Con, fast money Ramadan. Who collected Condom? Cold check my vital signs. Motel 6 float. Woke up with the brightest mind. Out of sight, out an idle mind. They hate it when you idolize. We living in the final times. Guess you Ellen Keller blind. Spirit when it's moving through. Dark side, dark side. Clearing up all the lies and the rumors too. Dark side, dark side. You say you want my life, you gotta fight me first. Dark side, dark side. Come outside round here, there's nothing like church. Dark side, come and get this life. Put my soul on the altar, I never offer a sacrifice. The blood that we need for the lamb ain't never acting right. I take my path tonight, knowing that I might have to fight. I probably grab a knife and a 9. I guess I'm packing light, focus on the now, just as much as the afterlife. I recognize the spirit is only taking up half the fight. Stairway to heaven, He won't make it up half a flight. He working, making bacon bits, probably out on the Sabbath night. Shoot for the moon, hoping to hit a satellite. You can ask him why when they see me, they call on Adonai. When we both know at the most he telling you half a lie. Feel the transition begin to happen when passing time. I came back in the sky, just like an astronaut, to say you selling Africans out. See you and asking Mike, and it's sad to say they really had it bad for Christ. And I hear the Habasha thinking they are the half is
Holy Spirit when it's moving through.
Dark side, dark side.
Clearing up all the lies and the rumors too.
Dark side, dark side.
You say you want my life, you gotta fight me first.
Dark side, dark side.
Come outside round here, there's nothing like church.
Dark side, dark side.
Come and get this life work.
Power to the dark side, power to the dark side family. I appreciate all those who are in the building. Power to the dark side to Karai the introvert. Definitely appreciate you in the mix. What's good with you, God? So, as y'all know from the title, gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria. It's been a minute. I want to put y'all something together, but of course, before I get started, I got to give a special praise to the most beautiful goddess of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, Stemya, whose image is the most beautiful Whoopi Goldberg. Shout out to everybody in the building, all my Babel builders. Remember, if you are listening to this, together we are Babel. Let's build. So this is another one. I got a couple of videos I want to get into. Definitely got a couple of videos I want to get into. But before I do that, let me first start out. I want to make sure I get you guys the definition, right? So when we talk about gender dysphoria, right, this is a term that describes a sense of unease that a person may have because of a mismatch between their biological sex and their gender identity, right? This sense of unease or dissatisfaction may be so intense it can lead to depression and anxiety and have a harmful impact on the daily life. Just want to get y'all the definition of gender dysphoria. Whether we agree or disagree, that is what it is described by, and it's supposed to be a mental illness, right? Supposed to be a mental illness. So we're gonna get into a few things. I want to get into a few videos. I'm not sure how much I'm in agreement with there being a difference in gender and sex. But that is something that is highly debated. I'll probably debate it next season. I'm gonna try to get in. Maybe we can get that debated next season. It's gonna be probably tough to get somebody in opposition with a title like that, for somebody to, of course, take the affirmative. I would prefer to take the negative, but I also have an argument where I could be the affirmative in that debate. So I don't mind taking either side just to have the discussion, just to have it debated. I think this is actually this is something that's being debated right now as we speak on a regular basis. So yeah, I definitely think we need to get this ball rolling on this. Let me for all those who do want to support the channel and help donate, that'll be also fine. There's my Cash App on the banner. But like I said, today's topic is gender dysphoria. Dysphoria, right? Shout out to Green 101. The historian is in the mix. What's good with your guy body? What's good? What's good? So, like I said, this is something that's being debated. I'm gonna show y'all a few debates on it, and then we'll get into a little bit more discussion on it. I will drop the link for all of those who want to come up and express their feelings on the topic. Um, but like I said, this is something that I look forward to actually having a debate on next season. If not me, somebody, maybe somebody else will debate it, however it goes. But I think this is a topic that needs to be put into the hat. Um, so I think I'm gonna start out with. hmm, Yeah, let's start right here. Right, I want to start right here.
Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to all of our witnesses here today. Ms. Robinson, I want to follow up by trying to understand your answer to one of Senator Cruz's questions. And this is really a question, not a suggestion. Do I understand your position to be that there are two sexes, but there can be more than two genders?
I wouldn't even say two, and we've got Dr. Lopez here as well, but there's also the definition of intersex. I think that often in these conversations we're conflating sex and gender, and I do want to affirm here that trans women are women. That is their gender.
Okay, but I'm trying to understand. Do you make a distinction between sex and gender?
Yes, sir.
What's good,
Okay.
Juju?
Explain that. Do you think there are more than two sexes?
I believe that there's a definition for intersex as well that I want to acknowledge. But sex is assigned
there are
at birth.
three. I'm just trying to understand. I'm thoroughly confused. So you're born. I'm talking about biology. Male, female, and what else?
I believe that intersex is also acknowledged. But
Intersex.
again, I'm not a doctor here. What I can
And
say
what does intersex mean?
is that there's a difference between sex and gender. And I think in these conversations, we're conflating the two.
Well, but I want to start with sex. Okay, there's male, there's female. When a baby's born, before the baby has had time to even have a sense of self, there's male, female, and intersex. There's a third sex.
I believe that is true, but I would defer to Dr. Lopez as I'm not a physician.
Okay. And how many genders are there?
I think the gender is expansive and the definitions are always growing. Today I can tell you, I
More
talk
than
to young
five?
people
More
that
than-
talk about non-binary as
More than five?
I think the gender is not a binary is what I'm trying
But
to say.
are there more than five genders? I'm just trying to understand. Are there more than five genders?
Well, I think that there was a time where women wearing pants didn't feel like it was appropriate for their gender, and yet I'm wearing pants today.
If
I
you
think
could
that there are
just
ways
answer
that
my
we
question.
express our
Are there
gender
more
that
than
are
five
expansive.
genders? Are there more than five?
I wouldn't subject myself to naming how many genders there are, but what I can say is
there
that
an
gender is a
infinite
reflection.
number?
Excuse me?
There's an infinite number of genders?
I think depending on your culture, there are a lot of different genders that exist. And I can also say that it's a term that's evolving. If you look at young people today, they really don't lean into the binary of only woman and man. So I think that it's incumbent upon us not to legislate on this, but create space for them to explore what their identities are, what their gender identities are.
Let's get back to athletics. I think I understand what you're saying. There are three sexes, male, female, and intersex.
I believe that to be true, but again, I'm not a physician.
And
so
there are an infinite number of genders because gender is a mental state.
Gender is about expression, and I think that there are a variety of ways that you can express your gender.
Okay, so there's infinite number. All right, let's go back to the biology. Male, female, boy, girl. Okay, biologically, do males have an advantage over females biologically in sports?
Again, I'm not a physician, and I can't speak to that.
What's your real world experience?
It depends. I mean, there are some people who are born male that I'm faster than if I were to sprint against them, and some that I'm not. Some males that are taller than some women, and some that are
You don't
shorter.
believe that a biological male has a physical advantage in sports over a biological female?
not as a definitive statement.
Give me an example. Well, no, I don't think. How many female members of the NBA do you see?
Well, I can say that, there's been this news article about men that think that they could beat Serena Williams in tennis, right? That they think that they could actually score a point on her. And it's just not the case. She is stronger than that.
What's your experience, Ben? Male, female?
Both Serena and Venus lost to the 203rd ranked male tennis player, which they're phenoms for women. My experience, my husband, he swam at University of Kentucky as well. In terms of accolades and in terms of national ranking, I was a much better swimmer than him. He could kick my butt any day of the week without trying.
Okay. I just think, Ms. Robinson, I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. I think you lose a lot of credibility when you don't concede that a biological male has physical advantages over a biological female. I mean, I just think that's a proven fact. And you
Fact,
really
she
hurt
got
your
cut,
credibility.
Green. She couldn't answer the
I
damn
think
question.
the
It's a
world
clear
be better
question.
place. I do too, and I don't think people ought to be discriminated against because of an immutable characteristic. I don't. And I think that I think everybody ought to be free to be themselves. And what you do in your bedroom or what I do in my bedroom with a consenting adult is nobody's business. But if what I do in my bedroom with a consenting adult, if I decide I want to tell somebody's child about it, then other people have rights too. And I think parents have rights. And I think biological females have rights to be able to compete fairly in sport, in sports. So I really think you hurt your credibility when you refuse to acknowledge that biological males have an advantage over biological females. It kind of makes me wonder about all your testimony. Thank you,
Senator
Mr. Chairman.
Kennedy. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What I'm trying to say is that there is not a definitive advantage in all cases. Sir, I don't know if you believe that you could beat Serena Williams in tennis, but I probably think that that's not the case. There are not all cases where all men are physically superior to all women. And at the end of the day, in this conversation, we're not talking about that. We're talking about trans women who are, in fact, women, who deserve to play in a gender that matches their sports, who deserve all the benefits that Ms. Gaines is talking about. And as a cisgender black woman, I can say definitively that my womanhood
That was
is
a
not
false
threatened by a
dichotomy.
transgender person asserting hers as well.
Senator Hirono.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank all of the persons who are testifying today. For Ms. Robinson, do you know what
That was a false dichotomy. False dichotomy. Shout out to Sister Aaliyah. I appreciate you in the building, sis. Definitely appreciate you in the building. Sister Aaliyah says going against God's creation is crazy. Is there any question about what a real woman or a man is? But now it has to be argued. Exactly. I think it gets a little bit ridiculous. I guess she thought she was raising a good point when she said that he couldn't beat Serena in tennis. I don't think he's beaten anybody in a foot race or anything athletic at all. I don't know why she picked him out of everybody. Yeah, of course he's not beating Serena Williams in tennis. But I think what the woman before her came on and was able to show is that the worst male tennis player was ranked 230th, was able to beat Serena and Venus Williams. That's crazy. That's crazy. I think this is very clear. We don't want to see women especially if in this case, I think the argument was based around athletics. We don't want to see a man and a woman in there boxing. I think if you take the top male boxer and you put them against the top female boxer, there's going to be a clear distinction, right? And it's probably going to be a slaughter. I love Clarissa Shields, but we don't want to see Clarissa Shields versus Gervonta Davis or, as we just witnessed, Terrence Crawford. There's no that's not even a question. It's not even a question. So it gets a little bit ridiculous. I think another point that the lady made was that she was ranked, right? When it came down to her swimming career between her and her husband, she was a much better swimmer, right? When it came down to competition. But that was her racing against women and him racing against other men or swimming against other men. But like she said, when it came down to them swimming against each other, she had no chance. He was able to beat her easily, barely even trying. Barely even trying. The argument kind of gets ridiculous. Yeah, think about it. Exactly. We don't even look at women athletes as all that, like the WNBA. Like, just think about Brittany Griner. Brittany Griner can dunk pretty easy. Pretty damn easy. But she's not getting a dunk off in the NBA. I can guarantee she will never get a dunk in the NBA. You put her in the NBA, she's not even on a team. Who's going to draft Brittany Griner on the NBA team? No fucking body. Like, this is like very, very ridiculous. I think she contradicted herself because she started off saying that sex is different from gender, right? And your gender identity. But yet she wanted to throw somebody in based on but she, in order for you to put somebody who's gender identified as a woman, to throw them in with biological women, that would be based on sex. I don't see how you're getting around that. Another point that she made, which was stupid, she tried to say, she literally tried to argue that basically because a woman is more comfortable, maybe more comfortable in pants. And it's crazy because this is actually kind of a follow-up on a discussion that we had yesterday. Because this point was also made yesterday in regards to gender dysphoria, that the issue with the daughter was that she didn't feel comfortable wearing dresses. And she didn't feel comfortable doing what they label as girly things. And she felt more comfortable in pants. If I'm not mistaken, that's what you would call a damn tomboy. That don't mean you're gay. That don't mean that you're born in the wrong gender. It just may mean that she's more into rougher stuff. She might want to wrestle more. She might want to climb trees. She might want to box. That does not mean that you automatically assume that she's born in the wrong gender. So there was multiple fallacies committed by the lady. She wouldn't answer the question. Then on one hand, she's not a biologist, but yet she will go in and clearly make a separation between gender and sex. She clearly made a separation between gender and sex. I don't know how you do that. He asks what's the difference. And she said, well, she's not a physician. Okay, so how the hell are you definitively making a distinction between gender and sex? And then he asked her, so one is, okay, so there are three sexes, which she wouldn't answer clearly. But for some reason, she was there to debate it. She don't really know. Then he asked, well, okay, how many genders are there? And he asked, well, okay, so gender is a mind thing. And now it's not. Like, she's not sure about that part either. She don't want to answer it as being a mental decision or a mental case. She answered it by it being an expression. Well, where the hell does that expression come from? The mind. So I don't know what the hell she was doing. I'm really kind of hurt that it was a sister out there doing that. And my question with her would be, okay, well, would she get in a boxing ring with a man who's a professional boxer? We're not just gonna pick any Joe Blow off the street. We're not gonna pick a 5'3" non-athletic guy. No, a real boxer. I'll take a 5'3" boxer that's male over any woman boxer any day. That's just me personally. I'm gonna put my money on the on the male. Simple and plain. I don't know what that was about. Like I said, that was a horrible argument being made for gender dysphoria, or for a difference in gender and sex. I think if you weren't a biologist, you should have moved out the way and got a biologist up there. Maybe they could have made the argument a little bit better. But you are born the way you are born. That's very simple. I want to go ahead, though. I'm going to go ahead and get into this next video. This one right here is a clear cut. Let's see. Here it is right here. This is a real good one.
First of all, I want to say thank you for being here. You are 4 incredibly brave women, and you're my heroes. You have been willing to put yourselves out there to address something that many people want you to stop talking. They want to prevent you from talking. Don't listen to them. Make sure that you continue to use your voice to educate us, to educate the American people, because these children are worth saving. Dr. Bowens, I want to thank you for being here. And in your testimony, you referenced what I think is one of the more important points in this debate, and that children are treated as special and a vulnerable class in the psychological and research fields. You referenced the experience of at Tuskegee, and to me, the important takeaway here is that controversial so-called healthcare practices, treatments, and experience have not always withstood the test of time. Outside of your reference, I think of how lobotomy was once a form of care we wouldn't even consider today, and in fact has been banned in countries throughout the world. In this debate, I have wanted to replace the misleading terminology gender-affirming care, especially as it relates to children, because 1, it replaces the biological reality of sex, and 2, because it falsely suggests that using the term affirming that there is anything good going on here. There are only 2 sexes, boys are girls, or boys are boys, yet girls are girls, and one cannot become the other. In fact, and especially when it comes to children, it seems to me that gender-affirming care is better described as sexual lobotomy. It is treatment that is fundamentally and permanently alters the sexuality and medical and psychological well-being of these patients. It causes irreversible sterilization and serious long-term medical complications and long-term reliance on pharmaceuticals. These treatments and surgeries are controversial medical practices that seek to change a person in a manner which is not actually achievable, and they will not withstand the test of time. Dr. Bowens, are there medical professionals in the U.S. and abroad already rejecting these surgeries as any form of serious medical care?
Yes, thank you for your question. And we are seeing an increase of medical professionals speaking out. Just this past week, there were 21 doctors that came out and said, we are very concerned about this. The own AAP, American Academy of Pediatrics, was referenced earlier, and 80% of their membership has been asking for a review of the literature, and they've been denied that review by the upper echelon. So there are, and I listed many other countries, there are people who are standing up because they're seeing the harms done to these kids like Chloe Cole.
Can you discuss why referring to these treatments as life-saving treatment is so extremely misleading?
Yeah, it's misleading for a number of reasons, because for one, the whole impetus of the scientific method is that we're discovering things. We're supposed to be in a process of, is this the right approach or not? And this whole discussion about saying that it's life-saving automatically says there's no room for discussion, there's no room for scientific inquiry, because the science is settled, which is it's an amazing statement, because the suicide literature has been around far longer than the transgender literature, and the suicide literature is not conclusive. So we have a real, right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing in this case.
It seems to me what we've been living through for the last couple of years is a government that wants to suppress any type of speech that it disagrees with. And we're seeing that with the industrial censorship complex that we've been talking about. And it appears that that's exactly what's going on here. They want to stop the debate because they know that they can't win it. Dr. Bowens, my last question is what is the success rate of sex change operations?
Well, we have, it's hard to find longer-term data with children, but what the data that we do have, which is probably the most reliable data point available, is from a Swedish study, and it looked at over 10 years, which is really important because regret doesn't just happen a year after some sort of transition. And what you see is a suicide rate that's associated with 19 times higher than the general population.
Well, actually, there is a 0%, there's a 100% failure rate for sex change operations, isn't there? Because it's not possible to change your sex?
That's right.
100% failure rate for these procedures.
That's right. You can't change your sex.
Thank you, and I yield back.
Now that's another very clear cut. 100% failure rate. Why? Because you can't change your sex. You can't. 100% failure rate. And I think what it comes down to, especially when we're talking about children, that's irresponsible parenting. Simple and plain. This comes down, and you know, in the last video, the one right before this video, the congressman made an actual great point. What you do in your bedroom as an adult is what you do in your bedroom. Cool. But when you start putting what you do in your bedroom on children, now we have an issue. And this conversation is really another conversation that goes into overly sexualizing children. You can't over-sexualize children, because the moment you start talking about changing your sex organs, it becomes a sexual conversation. Period. So it's treated like a sexual conversation. And as a responsible parent, when your kid comes to you, or you find out your kid is either being sexually active or talking about changing the sexual orientation. That is the moment that you put your foot down. Excuse me. That is the moment that you are supposed to put your foot down. Now, the argument has been made that, well, what do you do if your child is telling you that this is a life or death situation? That you're either gonna, I think in one of the cases it was stated that do you want a dead daughter or a living son? At that moment, you have to understand you are still having a sexual conversation. There were kids who want to kill themselves because they can't have sex with their boyfriend, or the boyfriend can't have sex with his girlfriend. Because they are they want to kill themselves. As a parent, do you allow them to just start fucking? No. As a responsible parent, you're supposed to put your foot down. There must be either a change in environment, a change in what they're seeing, watching, but at the end of the day, it is the parent's job to make sure that that their child feels comfortable in their own skin. So if your child doesn't feel comfortable in their own skin, that's your fault. That's your fault. Because you're supposed to be reaffirming confidence in their beauty, in their sex, in their self. They're supposed to gain confidence in who they are from the parent. Now I do, and to me, this is where I argue against gender roles, and I think that when we talk about gender roles and what makes, shout out to Astro, I appreciate you in the building. Power to the dark side, God. When we talk about gender roles, this is where it gets tricky, because we'll say that a girl or a woman is supposed to do this, and that. This is how they're supposed to act. And when you get a female who is more aggressive, who can't or who could tend to be more aggressive than other females, what you get is them telling them that they're acting masculine. Not that they're just more aggressive or they have more of a dominant spirit, but that they're more masculine. And this is where that conversation falls into place at. No, because when you make that argument, well, who's to say that she ain't supposed to be a man? So there's no acting like a man. There's no acting like a woman. You are what you are. It's just very simple and plain. You are what you are. You can be a man with a submissive spirit, and the woman that you're with has more of a dominant spirit or more dominant energy. That doesn't make her manly. That doesn't make you feminine. You are what you are. But see, what you have happening is you are having people who have daughters who might be more dominant, more aggressive. And the parent irresponsibly is saying something is wrong with them because they don't want to play with dolls. Well, dolls don't define a girl. That's not what's defining what a girl is. And instead of you reassuring and instilling confidence and making sure that she's comfortable in her own skin, you're creating confusion based on sexual orientation in a child that shouldn't even be thinking about sex in the first place. The conversation that's being had is, where do we let kids be kids? Because the boy, I think I can't think of who. I think it might have been Suave that actually made this point. Is that because the boy is playing with dolls, there's an immediate panic, and then you start putting shit in the boy's head that it's something wrong with him. Well, now he goes to find a solution in his own head. And and not only that, what you have to be careful about is the other kids that are around jumping to the conclusion that she's gay, he's gay, something's wrong with them. No. They just don't like to do the things that maybe you like to do. That doesn't mean that there needs to be a change in their sexual parts or in their sexual orientation. You're creating confusion. I got one more video to play. I am finna get to that video. But at the end of the day, this is, and I think it might have been labeled. I think somebody might have put this out as child abuse already, if I'm not mistaken. It most likely was probably Florida that said that changing your child's or trying to change your child's sex is child abuse. And I definitely do agree. Allowing your child, being okay with your child having sex is child abuse. I don't think that kids should be seeing men and women kiss, women and women kiss, or man and man kiss. I'm not a fan of that at all, because like I said, that starts the overly sexualization of the child and their mind at a point where they should just be a child. So we're getting away from being in a child's place, and now the children are allowed to now dictate their future at a point where the parent is supposed to be dictating the child's future. It's your job. That's your job. Period. You're not okay with them joining gangs. You're not okay with them playing with guns. You're not okay with them selling drugs. You shouldn't be okay with them having sex. And you damn sure shouldn't be okay with them changing their sex. The moment your child is feeling uncomfortable in their own skin, that is the point. As a good parent, you were supposed to have a discussion that righteously, the reassuring of your child and who they are is a process that should be taking place from birth. Let me get this. Astro said, most people don't study the occult enough to understand the energy that is coming down onto the earth. And our flesh is so corrupted that when that light does reach us, it gets trapped within Oh yeah, I gotta get you to finish that statement. It gets trapped within a yeah, I wanna know what you're saying. It gets trapped within. But I think I see where you headed. Oh, an unclean vessel. And the light gets corrupted and perverted. Correct. Correct. And remember, light is information. Light is information. So that light can be corrupted, or the information can be corrupted. And what ends up happening, right, is that you get a distortion in the data that's produced. You're not getting a proper read. The brain is not able to read the information the way it would normally read it. And therefore the process or the processing of that information is distorted. But like I said, as a parent, your job is to make sure that your child is feeling comfortable in their own skin. Now, getting them therapy for gender dysphoria is not the solution. It's just not. There is no you're the therapy for that. Because what's happening is that the therapist isn't there to reassure them of who they are in their own skin. It's only to get to the question of why they feel that way, which leads to more questions. And just think about it. You know that this is a damn game. Because at what point is a child coming to their parents talking about they're uncomfortable with their own sex organs? At what point is that a conversation? Is that a conversation that the child is having? There's an adult somewhere that is instilling that principle or trying to instill that principle within the child. Anytime you're talking about your sexual organs, you are talking about sex. Your first sex education should always be with the parent, and it needs to be in a responsible manner. You need to be responsible. What's good, Hood Therapy? Appreciate you in the building. And I'll say that again. You need to be responsible with how you respond to your children about sex. There should not be an over sexualization of the child's mind. You're going to have an issue. That's where your problem is going to come into play at. Period. Now, does the body go through changes? Yes. Yes. Puberty, you go through changes, and for some people, it's an uncomfortable process. It can be a very uncomfortable process. But as an adult and as the parent who's experienced the process, you're supposed to be able to explain it to your child. What's going, the natural, notice I said natural. You're supposed to be able to explain the natural changes that are occurring within their body so that they not only get comfortable within their own skin, but that they don't make the wrong decisions. So are your hormones going crazy? Hell yes. Does that mean that you tell your child, hey, well, you should go ahead and have sex? No. You're supposed to make sure that they understand that these changes are natural. The feelings that they are having are natural. But how they react to the feelings it needs to be in a responsible manner. Why? Because there are long-term repercussions to how you react to your hormones at puberty. And Astro said, so he wanted to be clear, men shouldn't be changing into women. They should be getting more in touch with the universe feminine qualities that exist in man in order to bring himself to a complete state. Exact. But see, and this is why I say this is the issue when you have hyper masculinity, because what happens with that is men get afraid of that word feminine. Hypermasculinity creates a fear in the word feminine, and feminine in man or in male equals, in hypermasculinity doctrine or ideology, it equals homosexuality, and that's just not the case. That's just not the case. Masculinity in women, or divine masculinity, because this is what you're dealing with: divine masculinity and divine femininity. Divine masculinity in women does not equal gay or lesbian, whatever is the case. That's just period. So I think we really gotta, like, yeah, it's definitely a needed discussion. We have to reevaluate how we try to put a gender on characteristics of a person. You're a human being. You're much more complex. You're way more complex than just playing with dolls and wearing a dress or wearing pants and playing basketball. You're much more complex than that. So playing basketball does not define you being a male. Running around and jumping, climbing trees does not define whether you're a male or not. That just may be a character, a part of your characteristic. There are going to be women who prefer to play with dolls, which is kind of a role that's kind of set. You kind of usually just give the girls dolls. You kind of give the boys the cars. But there are going to be women who like the cars more than they do like the dolls. There are going to be women who are better thick under the hood than the man is. That does not make her gay. That does not mean that she's acting like a male, because that's not what defines a male or a female. It's just not. And so on both sides, we're going to have to get more comfortable with feminine energy and masculine energy. Period. Because you open up the gates for conversations like these to rise. They don't really have a leg to stand on. Listen to what they're arguing. Because the daughter is more comfortable. She kept taking off her dresses. She wasn't comfortable in dresses. She wanted to, she related more to her brothers than she did to her sisters. Something is wrong with her. No. The things that she enjoyed doing and the things that made her happy may have been playing with cars, may have been racing outside with her brothers. that did not mean that she was born in the wrong body. It just meant that she had different energy or different characteristics from her sisters. But that didn't make her any less of a girl. Right. It said people really need to study the law of polarity. And I'm going to actually get it. I got one more video I want to touch on. And this video is actually going to deal. Yeah, and you know, and before I actually hit that video, it is insanity. And you know what's really worse about it? It's a disrespect to women. It's a disrespect to women, and it's a disrespect to men. Because what happens is you have a woman who is trying to be a man, trying to define what a man should look like, how a man should act, how a man should be. You don't know that. You're creating, or you're enforcing a stereotype that's not even true. And then you got a man acting like a woman. Man, notice I use the word acting. Trying to reinforce a stereotype of how a woman should look, how she should talk, how she should dress. There is no standard on that. The only standard is how you reproduce. That's very simple. That's the only standard. That's the standard that said is how will you reproduce? Now let me click on this one, because now we're going to deal with people who actually had their sex changed and how they feel about it.
Ruby began identifying as male at 13 years old. Now 21, she'd been planning to have surgery to remove her breasts. But in May, she made the decision to come off testosterone and detransition to identify as female, her sex at birth. She doesn't want to be identified, so we've changed her name.
I figured it would be better for me to try to deal with my gender dysphoria in a different way, rather than permanently changing my body.
How much support did you feel was out there for you when you came to this conclusion?
I didn't feel like there was any support out there, other than like a few friends online.
Ruby now feels her eating disorder was more of a factor than she first realised in her gender dysphoria.
None of the therapists that I spoke to brought that up. They didn't think that it was linked.
Do you?
I think so, yes, because they're both kind of based in how I feel about my body, so I've seen similarities between the two.
Charlie Evans is forming a charity to support people in Ruby's position. After going public with her detransition story, she discovered an online community of 5,000 in a similar position, 30 people alone in her area of Newcastle.
I was approached by a young woman with a beard, and she hugged me and said, I'm a detransitioned woman as well, I've just stopped taking testosterone. And after that I felt like I had to do something. I'm hearing from hundreds of people, and I think some of the common characteristics are they tend to be around their mid-20s, they're mostly female and mostly same-sex attracted, most are lesbians, and often autistic as well.
The Tavistock and Portman NHS Trust told us the experience of regret described here is extremely rare. Their gender identity service for children in Leeds and London now has a record number of referrals. The clinics here and in London see 3,000% more patients than they did 10 years ago. Among girls, referrals are up more than 5,000%. There's no question this service is helping children who feel distressed in their own bodies. But the full impact of children making decisions about their gender at such young ages may not truly be clear until much later in their lives. At 21, it's had a positive outcome for Jamie and his mum. After testosterone and surgical treatment, he's far happier than the torment of his teenage years.
It was kind of hell. Like, it's just not something you'd want to go through if you were trans. Like me, it's just, it's awful. Like, everything that happens to you within that stage of puberty for a female, for a trans man, it's awful.
There's currently no data for how many in the trans community detransition, and to talk about it can be viewed as transphobic. But people like Ruby say more discussion is needed, as well as more options for people with gender dysphoria. Sally Lockwood, Sky News.
And I want to remind y'all too that this is once you go down this rabbit hole, the choice that is made, shout out to Afro-Asiatic Peace God, peace. The choice that is made is irreversible. Irreversible. I'm gonna drop the link, and if anybody want to come up and expound on this, I'm gonna try to see, because it's actually a video I missed. I want to get on here. I'll see if I can do that without having too much dead air. But there's it's irreversible. Once you begin to take these puberty blockers, these hormone injections, these testosterone injections, there's no going back. So, as you can see, the person who thought that she wanted to identify as a male and then decided to stop taking the testosterone, her voice is permanently the way it is now. It's stuck like that. Right. And Astro said, I do also want to point out that the leaders of America are occultists. So they truly believe that by pushing this shit in schools and in the media, they are ushering in a new age. And mind you, when you do this, another thing that's irreversible is you being able to reproduce. This is why we say when people talk about population control, it's coming. No, population control is already here. It's already here. When you hear Bill Gates talk about needing 80 million people dead, the process has already begun. It's already here. Sterilizing so many people so that there's not an overpopulated planet, which is a false, very false argument, or so that we don't run out of resources, which is another false argument. The process is already in place. If they're telling by the time, let me get my mic a little bit closer. By the time they tell you what the plan is, it's already in progress, if it's not already being finished. You know, and you're not only thinking that it's okay to become a woman, but the scam is believing that you can become a woman. You can't. Nor can a woman become a man. I don't care how many testosterone shots you take. You can start giving Clarissa Shields all the testosterone shots you want to give her. If she get in that ring with Terrence Crawford, it's gonna get ugly. It's gonna get ugly. But it's a scam. And the process plays, it has a role on multiple fronts. Population control. Another thing is, because you got to think about what we're dealing with. This is a child's right to consent. To consent. This is now a child's right to consent. So if they can consent to sex, why they can't consent to age? See, the one thing that's creeping through the back door is pedophilia. That's what's creeping through the back door. And you got it, and this is why you have to understand your responsibility as a parent. As a parent. At the end of the day, gender dysphoria is based on a child being uncomfortable in their own skin. Take responsibility as a parent and learn how to have the uncomfortable discussion. Yeah, it may be sex is an uncomfortable discussion in the household. And I think it wasn't my last debate, but the debate that I had with Trevor, one of the things that it showed is that, in particular, Black family, we don't do a good enough job of discussing sex with our children. We don't. I think on the women's standpoint, it's just more so the discussion is about just don't do it. And when it comes down to men, and depending on what side, because it's almost the same thing. Because when it's the girls, we're also with the women on it's just don't do it. But when it comes to the boys, it's almost encouraged. So the way that we discuss sex in the home is unhealthy. We have to not only, and this is where education is going to play a role. We have to educate ourselves in biology a lot more, because it's going to help you explain the changes more so, because a lot of times we didn't really get the changes explained to us in the most informative way about the changes that our bodies was going through during puberty. We have to get better understanding on what changes that your hormones and stuff is going through, so that we can explain it better and give more information to the child about what they're feeling. Because what it is, they're in a state of confusion, and the outside world is dictating what they're confused about. And it's not the case. The outside world is dictating what they're feeling, and they're lying. They're lying. Right. This is some more Frankenstein, Dracula shit. This is like real life. Now, as an adult, if that's the decision that you make, so be it. You'll live with the consequences later on. But as a parent, you can't allow your child to dictate their sex life as long as they're under your roof. They're in your household and they are your responsibility. You have a responsibility to have the discussion in a responsible way, in an informative way. And in order for you to have it in an informative way, you have to have the information. So yeah, we are going to, hold on, let me get this. Oh yeah, invite. Yeah, I'm finna drop the link. But we're going to have to be able to have these uncomfortable conversations with our children about the process of puberty. And now in today, you're going to have more information than ever about biology. Because even though it's not a debate, society and the outside world is saying it is up for debate. Which means that you're in for a fight. And anytime you're in an intellectual fight, it's going to be hard for you to be able to combat or to be combative and suited up without the proper information. You're going to need it. So get yourself educated on biology, how the body is developing, how the body changes through puberty. Be in a way that you're able to, because it's not something that you're going to be able to just read to your child, because in order for us to learn, we have to be able to visualize it. Right? You're going to have to be able to visualize it. So that means that you have to have enough understanding to be able to give the child the visuals. You have to be able to paint a picture with your information. And we got Sister Aliyah Muhammad in the building. Definitely appreciate you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Peace, peace.
Please, I'm like a very interesting subject. Okay, so I'm gonna just share with you where my view is. In the beginning was the word, right? According to the Bible, in the beginning was the word, and the word was God, and was with God, and da 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 da, blah blah blah. So see, with this dialogue that they're creating now in this transgender world and all this bisexual, pansexual, it's words. They are already scripting. You know what I'm saying? They already coming up with the screenplay. With these movies, with what the images they're
Oh, Sister Muhammad, your mic muted. I think you lost connection for a second. If you're talking, your mic muted. Can y'all hear me? Yeah, it looked like her mic muted. Let's see if I can unmute it. Sister Aaliyah, if you can hear me, your mic is muted. You're gonna have to unmute and then restart at your point. Okay, so yeah, you gotta do here. Yeah, she might have lost connection. I definitely want to hear her point though. We'll run it until, and I think I almost found the video too. I was looking for, because I got a video of somebody else who, y'all may have seen this. Yeah, here it is right here. Oop, let me save this. Share. Copy link. Boom. Yeah, but it's there's some superimposing going on and by mainstream society. Okay, yeah, she just dropped off. I'm finna try to download this video too while we wait for her to come back up. But there's some superimposing points being made on society. And I think at the end of the day, okay, cool. I think I'm able to go ahead and download it. Let me see. All right, boom. There we go. All right, I got the file downloaded right now. Bam. All right, I got the file downloaded. Hopefully y'all can still, y'all can still hear me cool. I'm gonna redrop the link to, okay, I think I see it. Here we go.
You see it says out the blue. See that?
All right, I think you're back.
Yes, sir. Some like them. Look,
Yep, you're back, Sister Leah.
Yes, sir. But listen, let me tell you something. Something just took control of my phone. Do you hear what I'm saying? See, they want us not to believe in how things can just start happening mysteriously.
Okay, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me? He still can't hear me.
Okay, yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Look, Blue, I don't care what people think. These beasts are trying to control every aspect of our lives. I did nothing to this apparatus. It just started doing what it wanted to do, because these kind of conversations, they do not want us to have. Do you understand what I'm saying? Can you hear me?
Yeah, definitely. No, I definitely understand.
Okay. They do not want us to have these kind of conversations because they want us to continue being programmed by their agenda and dealing with only their narrative. You see? We rejected homosexuality. We rejected homosexuality in our neighborhoods before 1974 and until we got into the 80s. You could not walk around shamelessly in the Black community and be anything but what we say God made you. Okay? So now, since it didn't work, You know, we see, this ain't even about nothing else but us, how we think and who we are, and how they want to totally change us. They want us to be a mimic of them. Why? Because they have a God complex. Gil Scott-Heron said this. He spit this on microphone all across America back in the 60s and 70s. The white man got a God complex. And if you understand words, etymology, you know, then get into that word complex, because it's deeper than just feeling away, trying to be different. None of that. It means that they want to be God. They really want to develop them a universe with the 9 planets and the stars and the Milky Way. They want to do this, but the only way they can do it is to use us as their subjects. Okay? So now this, as we begin to talk about this, and my position is, we don't have to accept that language. I will never start calling my children they, them, the, us, because they want to come home from school and say, well, mother, I identify now as they. You know, no. See, we don't have to accept the word, because in the beginning was the word, and then the word was made flesh. So everything they're doing in front of us, even in the Congress,
Right.
is to assert that word. You see what I'm saying? So they can build off of it. We have to reject it now. Now. By teaching our children the biology of being a man and a woman, the beauty in being a real man and a woman, and how a real man and a woman comes together and can create other men and women. You can't do that with another man. I can't do that with another woman. And my question to you, and it's not a question to you, but for you to ponder over, and we ought to get some dialogue about that. What's their end game? Say, for instance, all of us wake up tomorrow and say, okay, we'll be binary, homo, men will love men, women will love women. What's going to be the end game? Okay, you know, that's what I be always talking to my children, my youth about, because they're not children anymore. What's their end game?
I think that the end game is for pedophilia to be able to now say that, well, your child has the right to choose, and that the child consented to basically to the molestation.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the and we have a problem here in America because there's no defined age of consent. Like in when you go to like California, I think the age of consent is like 14.
Yes, sir.
And in some states, yeah. And in some states it's even younger.
All of America is different ages for the age of consent. But you know what, bruh? Across America, every state has their own sovereignty. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The people, I don't think a lot of people understand that, especially our people, because we're not really into politics. It has never been a part of our forays and mores. You know, politicking is lying, is deceiving, is trying to shuffle the narrative. You know what I'm saying? When you're a straight up righteous person, when you're a straight up for real person, you're just going to speak from the hip. You know what I'm saying? You're going to just shoot straight from the cut. You politic when you want to lie, when you want to deceive, when you want to cover up, you know? So politic was never a part of our lifestyle before this, like The Last Poet. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about. The Last Poet. They was like a real, one of the first rap, mic, what y'all call that today? What they call that? When you spit. When you spit, MC. They were some of your first MCs, and they made a song called "Before the White Man Came." You know, I play it on my channel, God is Rising. I have a new channel now. It's called God is Rising, and I'm dealing with mostly a lot of things about the historical facts and history of, you know, the Nation of Islam and its impact in America. And as a true member from birth until now, I think I have the best account of what really happened in the Nation of Islam and who and what it was about. So I deal with that. But this right here is to be unaccepted from the get-go. And biology, teaching our children biology, but yet being the best example of men and women interacting with each other will give our children a better view into what their futures are going to be as men or women, depending on their gender. That's what I see.
Yeah, and I think reproduction is a huge part in this conversation, and I think that's a big reason why they try to leave the reproduction out of the conversation.
Exactly.
And I think one of the ways they try to make the argument that all people can't reproduce, but I think which is you know, I won't say that that's a bad point. All people can't reproduce, and you know, all people aren't meant to. But in order for life to continue, reproduction has to go on. And so I think you can acknowledge that all people won't be able to reproduce, all women and all men, but I think it still plays a major factor in the discussion and how you have the discussion on sex or gender identity with the children, because we definitely have to, and it has to be in a responsible way where we're not, of course, we don't want to encourage sex on children, but we have to have the conversation in a way where we're showing that the divine feminine and the divine masculine, when they do interact, that's where you get creation from.
Exactly. That is creation. Those are the instruments of creation. Exactly. Well, you know, and I agree 100%. And that's why I'm saying we have to reject this whole session in committees in Washington where they want to make it an issue. It's not an issue to us. You know, you're a man. I know I'm a woman. We don't have no problems there. I'm not trying to be no man. You're not trying to be no woman. You know what I'm saying? We understand the natural order of law in our lives. They don't, because they want to create things that they feel can match, replace, or even, you know, scientifically do better than the natural order that came from the creators. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we're dealing with. And we've been dealing with it ever since 1948, that these eugenics have taken over the world now. They see what their problem is. See, we're a problem to them. And we're a problem to them because we're constantly a reminder to them that they will never reach the pinnacle of success that we have on this planet, nor will they ever be the better being on this planet. See, that's a problem for them. We are a problem for them, that they just use and abuse us, experimenting with us on every aspect of life in the society until they can find a way to get rid of us completely. And so I'm gonna say this and then I'm gonna have to go, bruh. I'll probably be still listening because I was just, you know, doing some things and I had my earphone in, and then I seen your thing come up and I said, oh, what's Blue talking about today? And I said, oh, this is interesting. This is real. So I pray that our people start talking more about this. We should not feel, they should not make us feel bad because the Black community never really accepted homosexuality back in the day. And that was mainly because the Black community has always been a very moral community until recent years. And that morality was part of their spirituality, and that spirituality was part of their connection with the oneness of God and wanting to live right. And so you can't live right if you're trying to be other than a woman, if you're a woman, and if you're trying to be other than a man. And in 1974, that's when they changed the laws in America to fit their agenda, because up until 1974, a lesbian or a homosexual gay man was considered insane, and they were locking them up in facilities until they became back normal. Following me? It was after 1974 that this stuff became where they want to now argue that being born gay is a natural thing. It comes from birth. That's a lie. That is a lie, and we all know it. It is a choice. That's what they used to always say. It was a choice. Then gradually it started turning into, oh yeah, you're born this way. Yeah, right. Why? Because Lady Gaga said it.
Right.
You see how reality is mimicking entertainment and animations and all that stuff, instead of art being, imitating real life. Now real life is imitating art. You get it? You see what I'm saying? Okay. So I'm gonna say this and then I'm gonna be gone. Reason why we having such a problem is because if you really look at it, Blue, and brothers and sisters who are listening, the real goofy people on this planet are ones that were born from the black man and the black woman. Messenger Muhammad, I'm going to say this and I'm going to go. You can take it or leave it alone. That man said before he left us in 1975, number one, the black woman would be the target. And not in the ways, we ain't going to get personal with and emotional about this. Just listen to what I'm saying. He said the black woman would be the target. And black brothers, he said, my brothers, leave that she-devil alone, because if you don't, her children and her is going to be your biggest problem. What the message was saying. He said, brothers, stop dealing with them white girls and having them breed children, because them children and her and her children are going to be a problem for our people in the future. And it is today. If you look around, it's them goofy children born out of that product that is causing all the problems, because they are the ones so confused about who they are, what they are, if they're black or white. It's all them. It's not the mulattoes now. It's not the ones that come from the black woman. Because see, that's been going on for almost 500 years. The white man taking the black woman, whether you want to say it was slavery or enslavement or suppression or oppression. Anyway, they had the power. They was taking our women and they was having sex with them for one reason or another, right or wrong. Those children were mulattoes. They came out the black woman. And some of them children have been, if you go back in your black background and your lineage, you might run into one of them, because of the fact that our women had no choice. They could not resist the force of this beast upon them at a particular time in our history here. So we had a lot of mulatto grandmothers. Now, I'm not saying particularly yours or mine, but I know of people that their great grandmothers were mulatto, because of the fact that their mothers was a so-called slave, and their father was the so-called slave master, right? A lot of those women turned out to be some of our bloodlines' grandmothers or great grandmothers. But the black man being with the white woman and having children, this is new. Those type of people on this planet are new. Absolutely new. And I'm just sharing, Elijah Muhammad warned the brothers and he warned the sisters before he left. He told us we would be the target, meaning everybody wants to be us. but then they want to SHIT on us, abuse us and misuse us, suck our breasts and get strong and be able to do whatever they need to do in life, and then put their foot on us and dog the Black woman and make it seem like the Black woman is ugly, illiterate, stupid, and debased. But the Black man, he said, brothers, stay away from them she-devils. Because if you don't, her and her children are going to be a huge problem for us in the future. And I'd be darned if it's not. Look around. So just, just think about that. It's a good show. And you and the rest of the brothers and sisters, y'all need to talk about this more, because we got to protect our community. If we don't, people like Saucy Santana and all them ugly all them other ugly queens out there that want to work against our rise and work against natural order of life. Listen, it's gonna cause us more problems in the end. We got to stand up like the people in Africa are standing up, saying now, no LGBTQ or none of that stuff. We don't want it. Why are we gonna be in a country where we can't speak freely? But now the Africans are waking up. The Asians are waking up and they saying no, America, we don't want that. And we're not taking it. And then we're going to stand here, and then in our own communities and in our own families, we just going to let it push. We're going to let them push it on us, and we're going to bow down and accept that kind of foolishness. I say no. And anybody who's willing to stand up and say no, hit me up and I'm with you. Okay. Y'all have a good day and carry on with the dialogue. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate that. And if you can, please drop your link in the chat room so everybody could subscribe. I definitely want to.
Absolutely, beloved. Because I'm gonna be getting in some things, whether people like it or not. I've been silent too long. You know what I'm saying about Messenger Muhammad, about the Nation of Islam, and this is what gives me credence to be able to say what I need to say and what I'm going to say. I was born and raised up in the nation. My mother and fathers were officers up under the messenger. They worked with him. They were around in the upper echelon because they were captains in the nation. And that gave you some perks. You know what I'm saying? Because you're working. You're constantly working. My mom and dad was constantly working with the messenger to bring this truth out, to bring out the dietary, to bring out how we are to be proud of who we are, to bring out that we are connected directly to the God. It was a process. And I'm thankful to God to know that my parents were forerunners in it, and they raised me up to continue to run in this same path. And that's why I stand who I am. See, I'm not only Sister Aaliyah, but in the nation, I am Sister Captain Aaliyah Muhammad. Okay. So I have a lot of literature and whatnot, and I raised me and my children. We still standing on our square, even though our nation is gone. And let me be clear, Sister Aaliyah don't deal with Farrakhan. I don't deal with Farrakhan. I don't deal with him. I don't deal with none of the other splinter groups out here. And I'm not a Sunni. We're not trying to be no Arab. Messenger Muhammad told us we ain't no Arabs, and we don't have to be no Arabs. We practice peace the way we want to in the streets. We don't have to practice peace in the streets like the Arabs and nobody else. So see, it's just a lot of lies been told, Blue, and I got to bring it out and make it clear.
Definitely. I definitely appreciate that.
Yes, sir. So I'll drop it in the link. You carry on. This is so good. Make it clear, boo. We got to be educated to know what a real man and woman is today, because they trying to push the goalposts back and change the narrative. Salam alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Definitely. Yeah, man. I definitely appreciate this is coming on, bringing that divine feminine energy. Definitely. And, a lot of, we have a lot of different feelings about the messenger, Elijah Muhammad. But I think in the end, I think one thing that we can all say is that the when we look at where we are in consciousness today and our understanding of where we stand at in the universe, I think that for a lot of us, that has been the starting point. No, you know, we've all ended up in different places. I've ended up in a different place or space on how I feel, but I definitely can acknowledge that the message to the Black man was definitely a jump start in my consciousness, and you know, and my development in a sense of self. So definitely, it's always going to be a respect there. I was able to download another video. I was able to get this other video up. I'm definitely going to be playing. I want to play this video real quick. This is somebody else. This was their argument in Congress, who had their sexual orientation changed, and they regret it. I want to go ahead and get this real quick for y'all, but definitely want to say shout out to the sister. I appreciate Sister Aaliyah Muhammad, definitely for bringing that message. That was powerful.
Being here and for your courage, Ms. Scanlon. Ms. Cole, you're next, and you can begin.
Good morning. My name is Chloe Cole, and I am a detransitioner. Another way to put that would be, I used to believe that I was born in the wrong body, and the adults in my life whom I trusted affirmed my belief, and this caused me lifelong, irreversible harm. I speak to you today as a victim of one of the biggest medical scandals in the history of the United States of America. I speak to you in the hope that you will have the courage to bring the scandal to an end and ensure that other vulnerable teenagers, children, and young adults don't go through what I went through. At the age of 12, I began to experience what my medical team would later diagnose as gender dysphoria. I was well into an early puberty, and I was very uncomfortable with the changes that were happening to my body. I was intimidated by male attention, and when I told my parents that I felt like a boy, in retrospect, all I meant was that I hated puberty, that I wanted this newfound sexual attention to go away, that I looked up to my brothers a little bit more than I did to my sisters. I came out as transgender in a letter I sent on the dining room table. My parents were immediately concerned. They felt like they needed to get outside help from medical professionals, but this proved to be a mistake. It immediately set our entire family down a path of ideologically motivated deceit and coercion. The gender specialist I was taken to see told my parents that I needed to be put on puberty-blocking drugs right away. They asked my parents a simple question: would you rather have a dead daughter or a living transgender son? The choice was enough for my parents to let their guard down, and in retrospect, I can't blame them. This was the moment that we all became victims of so-called gender-affirming care. I was fast-tracked onto puberty blockers and then testosterone. The resulting menopausal-like hot flashes made focusing on school impossible. I still get joint pains and weird pops in my back, but they were far worse when I was on the blockers. A month later, when I was 13, I had my first testosterone injection. This caused permanent changes to my body. My voice will forever be deeper, my jawline sharper, my nose longer, my bone structure permanently masculinized, my Adam's apple more prominent, my fertility unknown. I look in the mirror sometimes and I feel like a monster. I had a double mastectomy at 15. They tested my amputated breast for cancer. And I was cancer-free, of course. I was perfectly healthy. There was nothing wrong with my still developing body or my breasts, other than that, as an insecure teenage girl, I felt awkward about it. After my breasts were taken away from me, the tissue was incinerated. Before I was able to legally drive, I had a huge part of my future womanhood taken from me. I will never be able to breastfeed. I struggle to look at myself in the mirror at times. I still struggle to this day with sexual dysfunction. And I have massive scars across my chest, and the skin grafts that they use that they took of my nipples are weeping fluid today, and they were grafted into a more masculine positioning, they said. After surgery, my grades in school plummeted. Everything that I went through did nothing to address my underlying mental health issues that I had. And my doctors, with their theories on gender, thought that all my problems would go away as soon as I was surgically transformed into something that vaguely resembled a boy. Their theories were wrong. The drugs and surgeries changed my body, but they did not and could not change the basic reality that I am and forever will be a female. When my specialist first told my parents that they could have a dead daughter or a live transgender son, I wasn't suicidal. I was a happy child who struggled because she was different. However, at 16, after my surgery, I did become suicidal. I'm doing better now, but my parents almost got the dead daughter promised to them by my doctors. My doctors had almost created the very nightmare they said they were trying to avoid. So what message do I want to bring to American teenagers and their families? I didn't need to be lied to. I needed compassion. I needed to be loved. I needed to be given therapy to help me work through my issues, not affirm to my delusion that by transforming into a boy, it would solve all my problems. We need to stop telling 12-year-olds that they were born wrong, that they are right to reject their own bodies and feel uncomfortable with their own skin. We need to stop telling children that puberty is an option, that they can choose what kind of puberty they will go through, just so they can choose what clothes to wear or what music to listen to. Puberty is a rite of passage to adulthood, not a disease to be mitigated. Today, I should be at home with my family celebrating my 19th birthday, and instead I'm making a desperate plea to my elected representatives. Learn the lessons from other medical scandals like the opioid crisis, to recognize that doctors are human too, and sometimes they are wrong. My childhood was ruined along with thousands of detransitioners that I know through our networks. This needs to stop. You alone can stop it. Enough children have already been victimized by this barbaric pseudoscience. Please let me be your final warning. Thank you.
And if you notice, she put a lot of it on her parents because that's who gets the blame, because that was her parents' job to make her feel more comfortable in her skin. And instead, they treated her like she had a mental illness. They treated her like it was something wrong with her. And then the help that they supposedly went to go get her, which wasn't help at all. They were only reassuring the new age notion that she was born in the wrong body. Nobody talked to her and gave her information about puberty. Nobody talked to her and let her know that her body was going through natural changes in the way that she was feeling, and the confusion that she was feeling was okay. And it was a process that she would get through. Instead, they came with the agenda. And now she has permanent results from the hormones, or excuse me, from the testosterone that she took. You see, her voice is permanently like that. She won't be able to reproduce. She still goes through pain. Her body is scarred up. All of this came from irresponsible parenting. Irresponsible parenting. So now she's grown and has decided to go back to what she was born as, which I don't know why I said go back, because she never left it. But she has decided to identify with how she was born. But because of the permanent results of what she underwent, she has to live disfigured. She has to live in a way now that's uncomfortable for her today. So now she's much more uncomfortable now than what she was when she was a child, being told that she was born in the wrong body. The power of influence is something serious. And you can see, like I said, that the discussion is an adult discussion that's being had, and it's being enforced on children. But not only is it an adult, it's a pseudo conversation. It's pseudo. The science is pseudo. She's at a point where she realized that no matter what surgery she went through, no matter what type of injections she got, her sex would never change. So there was lying going on between the therapists. There was lying and manipulation going on with the doctors. And there was irresponsible parenting going on. This child was a victim of that. And not only just a permanent victim. The results are irreversible. Yeah, it is, and that's the sad part. Is these kids. And so you look at a Dwayne Wade and you have to ask yourself, what are you doing? Who do you speak for? Who had this conversation with I don't even remember what was the name of the baby. What was his son's name? I guess it was Zaire, I thought, right? I think his son's name is Zaire. I think they changed it to Zaire or something. Who was having this conversation with this baby that something was wrong with their gender identity? Who over-sexualized this child? Because the discussion was being had with the child before even puberty, before even going through the biological changes. So we see irresponsible parenting by even a Dwayne Wade, and it's being put on mainstream and promoted as if more people should be open to this. More people should be in support of this. No. You needed to be getting your son the correct information. You needed to inform yourself more on biology. And then be able to relay the information in a way, like I said, now everybody's not meant to teach. That is true. But part of what makes a great teacher is being able to illustrate the information that they are providing in a way that you can visualize it in your own mind to where it makes sense. So when you give a child, you can't, it's one thing to just go over the numbers with a child and it becomes repetitive. 2 + 2 is 4. 4 + 4 is 8. But the way that you're going to be able to get them to really learn Their mathematics is going to be when they can visualize the mathematics, whether that be with their fingers, whether that be with their candy, cookies. No, how do you have 4 cookies now when you only had 2? Because I gave you 2 more cookies. So now that I gave you 2 more cookies, how many do you see? Now they're able to see how 2 plus 2 is 4. So that comes with you, and this is why education does not stop with school. It does not stop with school. You have to be at a point where you're continuing to educate yourself even outside of school. Every day you should still be learning something new. Every day. Something as important as your child's development is something that you need to be educated on. Being able to relay, and like I said, I say this, and it has to be, I'm going to continue to say, in a responsible way. We have to have the discussion about sex that's age appropriate with our children. It has to be age appropriate, but they still have to be able to understand what it means to reproduce, what it means to be who they are in society, how that affects not only them, but their family, their future. Dwayne Wade has removed the future away from, he's removed his son's future. He has no future. The buck stops at him now. He's the end all be all. Because they're already making the decision for him early based on biological changes that we all naturally go through. And at the end of the day, what's happening is these children are getting misinformed. Misinformed. Whether it be out of ignorance or manipulation, it's misinformation. Whether it be out of ignorance or a lack of being informed, it's still misinformation. So get yourself educated. I'll be doing a show. I'm definitely going to do a show. My next one will make it on puberty and the development. That way, here on the dark side, we can make sure that we are prepared to have this discussion with our own families. But we are definitely going to have the discussion on child development, on puberty, what type of changes the body is going through, what type of how to deal with the hormones. What is the responsible way for the child to be able to express these feelings, these changes, these in hormones and testosterone and all of that that's going crazy inside of them. Without jumping to conclusions that your creation, because that's what it is, it's your creation, that somehow your creation was a malfunction, was wrong, didn't happen correctly. Right. And Sister Aaliyah said, like, during the summer, have your children to study math and science a couple of times a week while on summer break. Dwayne Wade is a buster, period. That's a fact. That's a fact. I think the agenda that we see going on is a bit, it's not even a bit, it's very ridiculous. And it's irresponsible parenting. It should fall under child I think, what is it, negligence? And honestly, I think the mother needs to, before it's too late, the mother actually needs to have custody of her children. Because what's going on with her son is ridiculous. And it's just something that and the only reason why they aren't able to go to the next step is because, thank God, the mother is blocking it. His biological mother. His biological mother. So prepare yourself. You're going to have to prepare yourself because there's going to be an uncomfortable, a very uncomfortable conversations are going to happen between us and our children. We have to be ready for these discussions. We have to be informed. Therefore, we can properly inform our children. We have to be. Sister Aaliyah, make sure you drop your channel link in the chat. Please drop your channel link in the chat. I want to make sure everybody able to subscribe. We definitely want to come through and listen. Because I know you got a lot of powerful information to bring out. So I definitely want to be able to catch that. But that is the game plan for us. Remember, it starts here. It starts with us. You know, this is why, you know, we are the dark side, and how we come about attacking things. You know, attacking our opposition. It has to be strategic. This is the importance of STEM. This is the importance of STEM. So we're going to have to understand science in order to have this discussion with our own children. But make sure it's in a responsible way. So when it comes to sex, it can't just be don't do it. I appreciate you, God is rising. Definitely appreciate you in the building. She said it's called child endangerment. That's right. It really is. It really is. And it's and like I said, it's unfortunate. Let me see. Okay, that's your channel. Okay, I see it. God is Rising is the channel. Okay, definitely. So y'all please click on her on that avatar. I think that is the channel. That way you'll be able to go ahead and get in touch. Make sure y'all hit the alert when you subscribe so that you do know when she is going live. They usually give you a 30-minute alert to let you know. Yeah, you would probably have to click on the actual avatar in order to get it. But yeah, God is Rising is the channel. Like I said, man, I appreciate everybody that came through. Y'all already know I'm always going to give a special praise to the most beautiful goddess of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEMia, whose image is the most beautiful Whoopi Goldberg. Shout out to all my Babel builders. Remember, if you are listening to this, together we are Babel. Let's build.
Chest. And all these pieces. Almost all the streets that I've crossed got flowers and pictures posted on the sidewalk. Memories of almost all the homies I've lost. I feel they mamas looking at me like it's my fault. He be alive, he wasn't fucking with you, demon. And now he gone and I'm still picking up the pieces. I swear to God, I really felt that in my chest. She looked me in my eyes, said, I pray your mama next. I stride on, no escape from the expression that was written on my mama's face. And it's a miracle she ever even kept her faith. I stride on, but there's no escape from the expression that was written on my mama's face. And it's a miracle she ever even kept her faith. I go high, I wake up flinching in my sleep, I'm fighting demons. I wake up sweating on my sleep, I think I'm bleeding. When in the neck in case somebody tries to sleep. I go high, I wake up flinching in my sleep, I'm fighting demons. I wake up sweating on my sleep, I think I'm bleeding. When in the neck in case somebody tries to sleep. Almost all the streets that I've crossed got flowers and pictures posted on the sidewalk. Memories of almost all the homies I've lost. I feel they mamas looking at me like it's my fault. He be alive, he wasn't fucking with you, demon. And now he gone and I'm still picking up the pieces. I swear to God, I really felt that in my chest. She looked me in my eyes, said, I pray your mama next. I stride on, escape from the expression that was written on my mama's face. And it's a miracle she ever even kept her faith. I go high.
When it's moving through.
Dark side, dark side.
Clearing up all the lies and the rumors too.
Dark side, dark side.
You say you want my life, you gotta fight me first.
Dark side, dark side.
Come outside round here, there's nothing like church.
Dark side, dark side.
Come and get this life.
They talked about Jesus, give them something to Babylon. Just know my whole team is battle tested and battle strong. One world speaking that Tower Babel tongue. Cole Hammurabi thinking ancient Babylon. No pun intended, Reaganomics had us under avalanche. We took off like a rocket, they was praying we could never launch into the upper echelon. You can never be yourself. Every day is Comic-Con, fast money Ramadan. Who collected Conacom? Cold check my vital signs. Motel 6 float. Woke up with the brightest mind. Out of sight, out an idle mind. They hate it when you idolize. We living in the final times. Guess you Ellen Keller blind.
Spirit when it's moving through.
Dark side, dark side.
Clearing up all the lies and the rumors too.
Dark side, dark side.
You say you want my life, you gotta fight me first.
Dark side, dark side.
Come outside round here, there's nothing like church.
Dark side, dark side.
Come and get this life.
Put my soul on the altar, I never offer a sacrifice. The blood that we need for the lamb ain't never acting right. I take my path tonight, knowing that I might have to fight. I probably grab a knife and a 9. I guess I'm packing light, focus on the now. Just as much as the afterlife, I recognize the spirit is only taking up half the fight. Stairway to heaven, he won't make it up half a flight. He working, making bacon bits, probably out on the Sabbath night. Shoot for the moon, hoping to hit a satellite. You can ask them why when they see me, they call on Adonai. When we both know at the most he telling you half a lie. Feel the transition begin to happen when passing time. I came back in the sky just like an astronaut to say you selling Africans out. See you and asking Mike, and it's sad to say they really had it bad for Christ. And I hear the Habasha thinking they are the half is
Holy
white.
Spirit when it's moving through.
Dark side, dark side.
Clearing up all the lies and the rumors too.
Dark side, dark side.
You say you want my life, you gotta fight me first.
Dark side, dark side.
Come outside round here, there's nothing like church.
Dark side, dark side.
Come and get this life work.